And acting bad is just having fun. Like, we have a good time. We act bad all the time.
So you heard him. If you a city girl, go get you a bad boy so you can act bad, because we acting bad. Something you heard.
We just enjoying life.
The people that I thought that would be in my corner, or that are like, when I was going through this, nobody called me. Nobody called me to see how I was doing. Like, people was really like, you thought.
So hey y'all, I'm back with another video. So tonight's video was yet again another Chioma Chats video podcast edition. So by the title, we're going to be talking about Caresha, also known as Young Miami, doing an interview on her podcast called Caresha Please, addressing everything dealing with her and Sean P. Diddy Combs. This was a super requested topic. Y'all were in my DMs. Shout out to all of you. It is super trendy right now, and it's all interesting because I think a lot of people didn't know if she was going to return back to not only her podcast, but just pop culture and the media altogether. I think the interview was actually well done. I feel like there could have been a little bit more with what was said in regards to Diddy, but I understand from a business and legal standpoint, she touched on things, but didn't full-blown dive into things. I do think there was accountability, but also episodes of blame and disassociation from how she acted in this whole thing. But overall, it was still good to hear what she had to say, because I know for a fact that the girl is hurting and she is very broken. It goes without saying that Sean Combs is being crucified in every which way possible. There's been numerous allegations of so many heinous crimes that I can't even list them all. And this once praised and decorated hip-hop mogul is on a downward spiral and will never be looked at the same. Caresha was his girlfriend, and I think I have to say that with air quotes, because yes, they were dating, yes, they were sexually involved, but I'm not sure how valuable this was, and she basically signed up for a horror movie. Let's not forget that Caresha was arguing with people over Diddy. She went above and beyond to show her infatuation with him. She is listed in a few lawsuits dealing with his illegal crimes, and she really gambled her career all in the name of Diddy. In this podcast, her best friend Saucy Santana is the interviewer, and I think he did a good job asking questions that people wanted to know, and he was empathetic but also straight to the point, so it was an easy watch, and it's just interesting to see how the tables have turned with Caresha's life and how she's coping with it. So I wanted to speak on so many different clips and different answers that she gave and give my opinion on everything that she said, because I have covered a lot of the Caresha and Diddy story since the beginning, so you know I have something to say. So I've broken this video down into two main talking points, so without further ado, let's get right into this video. So first, my main talking point is just skimming through the interview and giving my opinions on different clips and different things that happened with Caresha. Hindsight is truly 2020. Everyone always says that hindsight is 2020, and that's because it is. When you are your future self looking back at your past, you are able to see clearly, analyze what you've done right or wrong, and learn from your choices that led you to where you are at now. And I feel like as an adult grown woman, Caresha is in that phase where she's realizing that a lot of her choices were unbecoming and led her to where she is now. I also feel like there's a bigger lesson at the end, and this entire saga is a huge lesson for a lot of women out there. So starting off in the first clip, Caresha talked about how nobody was there for her when she was going through the downfall of Diddy. Let's check out what she had to say.
I feel like the people that I thought that would be in my corner, or that are like, when I was going through this, nobody called me. Nobody called me to see how I was doing. Like, people was really like, you thought.
Yeah. So when it comes to Diddy, why do you think that you are so heavily involved in everything? Like, everything that comes out about him, like you said, it's automatically, well, what you think? Well, how you feel? What you got to say?
Because people feel like I was Diddy's biggest cheerleader and I made him my brand. And I felt like Diddy was on brand for me. I got with Diddy and brought him into my life. I had him at the office. I was still doing Rich Roulette in the split, all right on. Ari, slap on my. I ain't never think I was bigger than the program. I was still on my city work. I was still doing remixes. Don't play with it.
You was Gucci Mane.
Man.
First impression.
I was still working. City Girls was on tour with Jack Harlow. We had At Bad. You know, Diddy came to me with the song. Told JT, let's get on this record. Like, I was still doing City Girls. I was heavily involved in the group. I never thought I was bigger than the program.
So her saying that people were not there for her, I feel like I'm kind of sort of 50-50. Because on one hand, I feel like it's hard for people to attach themselves to her when he wasn't just accused of fraud or a speeding ticket or more of a minor crime. Not saying that fraud is minor, but when you're being accused of sexual assault, messing with underage girls, trafficking, drugs, even questions about your sexual orientation, I truly understand why a lot of people did not reach out. And I have to say that I think there were many people behind the scenes who saw exactly what was happening, or at least had a little bit more information than the general public, and either warned her or cautioned her to tread lightly, and she didn't take heed of that. So when it all comes crashing down, it's easy to say that nobody called to check on me when most people who are in the industry know about Diddy and know that he isn't the best person to tie your brand to in any way. It's like Diddy was going down, but so are a lot of people who he is associated with, and she overplayed her role. The other half of my opinion is Caresha had to have known that she will never be the only woman Diddy was with. And I'm not sure if monogamy was something that she was searching for or required, but I feel like she raved in the fact that out of all the women that he's dealt with, she's within the more popular ones. Like between her and J-Lo, those are like the famous girlfriends. And then the baby mothers and some of the others are lesser known women, and they're not in the industry the way how she is. So I feel like she thought she had a one up, and when it all went left, of course people withdrew their support, because I would bet that most of the people in her circle was telling her, girl, if you like it, I love it, which really translates to, I don't agree with this malarkey, but there's nothing I could tell you that's gonna make you stop or walk away, so I'll just be here until you come to your senses. On the other hand, it depends on who she's talking about, because I definitely said, aha, because I knew what it was from the jump. I knew that when you're dealing with a man who is that powerful, significantly older than you, and has never treated women the best, to act like you are the exception to the rule in full capacity is just a little bit dumb, like just being honest. But I don't know, I don't feel like there's anybody in her life that gassed her up to do this and then spat in her face when it was all said and done. I think the internet did, and I think the media did, but we don't know you. The people around you wanted to get perks, or at least knew a little bit more than all of us. On top of that, there were so many times that she could have just walked away. She was going back and forth with the side pieces. He literally had a baby on her. Her bandmate JT was also looking at her crazy when she was holding up that gold poppy sign, and that didn't stop her at all. People were giving her the side eye back then, so to make it seem like people are just now jumping ship, I don't know if I can believe that all the way. Now, let's move on. So the next thing she talks about is how she was treated by Diddy. It's obvious a lot of things are coming out about how he treated Cassie during their relationship, as well as many other women from the early 90s up until now. Let's take a look at what she had to say on that.
With Diddy, what was your experience with dating him? Because I feel like in the headlines, it's a lot of just chaos, and it's a lot of allegations. And so I think that's what makes people feel like, well, since you were so heavily involved, you were a part of these things, or you were around these things. So what was your experience like, dating him?
Well, I met Diddy at P Party, and I met him when he was in a love era. And I met Diddy when the world was celebrating him and giving him his flowers while he was alive. Everybody trying to crucify me for it. Like, you was his biggest advocate, you was his cheerleader, but I was just celebrating when the world was celebrating him. Mm-hmm. So why am I being crucified, or why am I being separated? I was dating him. It was love, love, love. The frequency is high. So I just felt like I met him like in a whole new era, and that wasn't my experience. Mm-hmm. When I got with him, he was just a man. Like, it was more of like, okay, we ain't gonna do that. We gonna sit, we gonna communicate, we gonna get solutions. What's going on? Like, we ain't even going that route. So that was my experience with him.
So a lot of the things that people really like say about him, you didn't experience that as in dating. That's not something that you saw. So is that the reason why you never said anything? Is that the reason why when all of these allegations and lawsuits came apart, like, why didn't you speak?
Because I can't speak on something that wasn't my experience. And I can't speak on something that I don't know. I can't speak on these allegations because I wasn't around at the time. I don't know that person, and that wasn't my experience.
So with you being a survivor of domestic violence, he never hit you in a relationship? He was never violent? Was that something that you had to tolerate, or that wasn't a part of, because I feel like that's the biggest thing to him right now is, what he going through in these lawsuits and, that video that came out. And it's like, I feel like a lot of people are wondering, was that your experience?
So in my opinion, I don't believe she answered the question. Like, she said no, but like, really, was that your experience? She says that she can't speak on what she doesn't know. She can't speak because she wasn't there. But the question was that your experience? And I'm not a body language expert, but peep her face while Saucy was asking her that question. She looked down, and usually when you look away from an interviewer or somebody talking to you, you're thinking about something. You are reminiscing. You're going through your brain files to find that one picture in your brain that resonates with the words that you're hearing. I'm not saying that she went through it. I'm just saying that she didn't answer the question to me. I do think, though, he didn't treat her like he treated some of the other girls. Because, she's Young Miami. She's louder. She's ghetto. She's argumentative. That is a part of her brand. So if anything would have happened with her, we probably would have known about it. But then I do see that we might not have. As much as somebody can be that way, they also know when it's time to not talk. And I feel like she was getting so many perks, and she understood the aspect of being quiet about the bad stuff, but being loud about the good stuff, which a lot of women do. When it came to the trips, the money, the bags, the business, she was very loud about that. She was on Twitter calling people broke. She was saying that she wasn't coming up off of him, and she was very loud. So I don't believe she answered the question, and her body language gave me a different answer, but I'm not about to speak on her experience either because I also wasn't there. So moving on, she talks about how she went into the relationship trying to be up under a mogul. She wanted to learn, she wanted to be put in business, she wanted to acquire some skills, tools, and resources that could benefit her. And she said that she wasn't there for the gifts and the materialism, and I just think that is full-blown BS. Let's listen to what she had to say.
I honestly just feel like with Diddy, like, you know, I met him at a P party, and I don't know what his intentions was, but I don't know if it was like business or he really liked me, but I felt like, you know, when he got me, he really saw something in me, and that's why he was like, you know what, you got a big personality, like you should do a podcast. Like, you know, he had Deleon. I was able to have the whole world drinking Deleon, putting in his songs. Like, I made it popular, you know?
Yeah.
And then with Revolt, I was able to come and make it the #1 podcast on Revolt.
Yeah.
So I felt like, you know, and then with him, it was like he was able to, you know, take my career to the next level. I did the Met Gala. I got ready with Vogue. Like, I wasn't going into the relationship thinking like, I want to get a purse. I want to go on private jets. I want to get diamonds. Like, I feel like I'm up under a mogul. I want to learn something, you know, like I want to learn business. So I went into that relationship like on a like more of like, I want to become a mogul and I want to learn up under you. You know, most people just want to get their body done. You want to get a trip. You want to just do that video. Though I wasn't one of them.
So yeah, girl, please. Like, Caresha, please. She was in it for both business, but definitely more for the perks. Because I do think behind the scenes, when you look at the trajectory of the City Girls as a group, they weren't performing as well as they were a few summers ago. The group started to disassociate. The songs weren't hitting as much. They were really only doing remixes more than anything versus coming out with their own project. So I feel like her getting with Diddy was also a monetary opportunity. And we're in this materialism culture. Everybody wants to buy a bag or get their body done or mess with somebody who's up and rich. Like, that's a thing. And she promoted that. So to say that she wasn't one of those girls, Caresha, don't lie to yourself. Because I'll be honest, right now, if somebody with a billionaire status was trying to talk to me and I was single and I knew I didn't have the same money or career or assets or whatever, I'm gonna think with my right brain and my left brain. And I think anybody would. So I know she wouldn't admit that because it would make her look very shallow, even though we can already see through the lines that a good chunk of her association to him was for her to gain money and assets. I believe the first headline dealing with their relationship outside of them just being in a relationship was her admitting that he gives her $200,000 a month to go on a shopping spree. That was like the first tidbit of information that was released to the public.
So the people want to know.
Yeah, also, it's what they want to know.
Are you a 100K poppy?
Yes, that's me.
Okay.
That's me.
You dropping 100K?
250.
On a shopping spree?
250.
Oh, getting your bag, staying your bag.
Getting your bag. You know what it is?
So if you were in it for the business, why is it that we mainly heard about the things that he was doing for you that, if we're being real, other girls may be jealous of or envious of? We did eventually get the Caresha Please podcast on Revolt. We did see her promoting the Deleon liquor. We did see the Risha Roulette card game. But most of what we saw was her being a parasite and him being a host. And that worked for them until it didn't work for them anymore. And to make matters worse, I'm going to try to find the photo, but even after all of the allegations, for some time, she was still there. She did not leave for a while because she knew that she had to cling on to him to maintain that monetary status that he was helping her with. And the thing is, she's not going to be all the way honest. But I am. So moving forward, we get into the whole debacle of the City Girls breaking up, Young Miami and JT going back and forth on Twitter, and just the tail end of their duo. I did kind of note that the interview was only about the Diddy stuff for like the first third, like the first 10 minutes, and then it transitioned. Granted, there's only so much you can say about everything, but I'll give y'all my closing thoughts later. So when it came to JT and Young Miami feels as though JT took things to the internet and that's what made things worse, and that they're not enemies, but they're also not best friends. Let's check this out.
So when it comes to, City Girls and JT, y'all was having an argument on Twitter. You felt like, she was making songs about you. She felt like you throwing a rock and hide in your hand. Where do y'all stand at today as City Girls and just as sisters, as friends?
She ain't all good and it's not all bad. Like, we don't talk every day, but it's no beef on my end. I still look at her like as family.
Do you feel like taking it to the internet, or do you feel like things that happen behind the scenes have went too far that it'll never be the same? the old days?
Once we go to the internet, that's kind of like I'm the type of person, like, if we feel some type of way, we can hash this shit out behind closed doors. You could call my phone, we could text each other, we could cuss each other out. But like, once it goes to the internet, I feel like you trying to get people to pick a side. We've been friends for so long that if we gonna go to the internet, we gotta air each other dirty laundry. And if we real friends, we ain't going to the internet. I'm not going to the internet. And I felt like, I'm always the one that's gonna let the narrative run and let people think what they want to think and not clear nothing up. Cause it'll never be that serious to me. Like, I'm cool. I ain't gotta clear nothing up.
So personally, I feel like both women are at fault. I feel like the fans and the people online are trying to blame Young Miami for this and then blame JT for that. But if we're being real, both of these women's personalities are the reason why they were at it. If one person was so much way above the other, it would have never been on Twitter. Period. Like, think about it. Their personalities are two people who want to let everybody know that they don't go for anything. They will check you. They're willing to go back and forth, and they want to prove that they're the baddest. And maybe that's not all of their personality, but that's the tendencies that they both have. I think it would have been a little bit more understandable if Young Miami said, I saw what JT was writing, and I felt like she was dissing me on her songs. So I called her up and I asked her about it. I wouldn't have been mad if she said, we handle things, and then I came on Twitter and told everybody that we already handled things behind closed doors, and the Twitter back and forth is not something I'm about to do. But for her to say that she's the type to not have to clear anything up, you definitely did go online and participate in the back and forth. And I feel like she also sent subliminal tweets just as well as JT did. Maybe y'all can tell me, but I don't know who started it or where it started, but I think it started in the music itself and then transitioned into Twitter fingers. When y'all both were participating in the Twitter tennis match, I don't think anybody is above being called out for adding fuel to the fire. But that's just me. Because although there were speculations that the group was breaking up, the general public didn't know for sure until that back and forth. So moving on, Caresha talks about how the City Girls basically broke up. And I feel like, again, we all saw this coming. We all saw that it wasn't hitting the way how it used to. I felt like I spoke on this, but I don't remember. I say a lot of things. But I did notice a separation. It's actually interesting to see what was actually going on behind closed doors. I like this transparency that she gave because as a business owner myself, I do believe that there's a lot that happens that leads to changes or a full-blown breakup with what you're doing business in. No matter how successful you've been, don't ever underestimate that you might have a climax and then you start to decrescendo. And I think that's what happened here. So let's check out what she had to say.
It's been a minute since you ain't going on behind closed doors. Like, I just feel like we outgrew each other. I feel like she was in LA, I was in Miami. She was been working on her shit. I didn't know. And I just feel like every time we try to get together, it just didn't hit.
So do you feel like distance, you living in Miami, she living in LA, did that play a part in the wedge of y'all two?
I don't know.
Did y'all go to the studio together? How was recording? Because y'all last album didn't do well. And I feel like even in interviews, y'all weren't in sync. And it didn't look like something that just happened. It looked like something that's been occurring.
Yeah, I just feel like when we got together, it just wasn't hitting. Whenever we tried to get together, it just didn't connect. So I don't really know like what was the moment that separated us, but I just felt like it became a time where like when we was getting together, it just wasn't connecting. And I was just like, ain't no money in the group. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're not going to the studio together. I'm doing a feature. People calling for the City Girls. It's either me or it's you. It just wasn't connecting no more. And I just felt like that's what really made me like start my own brand. Like, I got to do something because I'm in this group. The group ain't making no money. We not working. I was just like, you know what? I got to like figure something out because I do got kids. And that's what really made me start doing like Rich Roulette and getting into my merch and things like that because I just felt like the group just wasn't hitting no more.
So again, the girls weren't making money, they weren't growing, they weren't progressing. People were asking for one or the other when it came to music. They weren't even making music. And the last album that they put out did not even perform well. And I actually liked the City Girls as a group. As they were coming up, I was a little bit iffy on them. But when I first heard them and when I saw their personalities and realizing that they kind of just started from the bottom and they made a big name for themselves even though they had nothing to begin with, I was impressed. I liked the story. And I'm not sure if it's still on YouTube, but there's like a City Girls docuseries from years ago that shows when they were first coming up, and then JT going to prison, and then Caresha having to hold down the band while pregnant. And it truly was a testament to how hard work and dedication from both of them paid off. Because even when JT came out of prison, she didn't miss. As soon as she came out, she dropped the First Day Out song, and then we saw City Girls everywhere. And they really maximized their moment. So to hear that eventually it just wasn't working, I'm not sure why though, because the formula was there and it was working, but I feel like in music these days, people just get tired. I don't really think it had anything to do with them or their work ethic or even some of the things that they had going on. I think when you're looking at the climate of female rappers, they were a part of the surge in that overtly sexual female rapper. Their subject matter was shocking at first because it was kind of new, at least for this generation, until it wasn't. And I think their fans grew out of that. And then because if we're being real, JT is the rapper with a little bit more talent than Young Miami. Your talent is what takes you far, but your buzz and your celebrity and your popularity can only hold you for so long. And I feel like that's why it got to where it got to. I feel like relationships also play a role. If JT is in a relationship with Lil Uzi and they're a lot more serious and want to spend a lot more time together, and maybe JT is supporting him at times, and then Caresha goes and gets with Diddy and she's in this relationship and it's bringing her a lot of attention, it can drive the group apart. And because of her association with Diddy, I feel like JT knew like this isn't the best for business or the best for the brand, or maybe this will crash and burn, hence why she started making her own projects. And Caresha said she didn't even know. But I will say that's why you always have to have a backup plan and a plan B. She then started doing her card game, her podcast, and her merchandising, but that should have been something that was instilled in the beginning because music can sell, but music doesn't always sell. There's not too many music artists that withstand the test of time, generations, and the evolution of different genres. We're slowly transitioning out of the party girl, fun girl, city girl, bubblegum rap music. Like we enjoy it, but it's not at the forefront anymore. It's not in the #1 position. And they drove that boat for so long and so hard, but eventually the fans grew out of it. And the city girls were super popular when I was like in the middle of college. And that's when I was partying and I would be around other girls who were a part of the same lifestyle, going outside. And the city girls music was perfect for me at that time. But now that I'm closer to 30 than I am 20, I've grown out of relating to that. I've grown out of wanting to mess with a guy just for his money or perks, or be a lot more forward in my sexual appeal, or be a part of conversations that deal with having fun and partying. And I feel like so have they. That's not what their lifestyles consist of anymore. They're both in their 30s now, Young Miami has kids, and they were saying all of these things when they were in their mid-20s, and essentially they grew up and their fans grew up. So I think that's why things started to disconnect. Now moving on, there was a little bit more about JT and the Twitter thing. Young Miami talks about the fans egging her on to come to JT's defense when she got into it with Cardi B. And it has something to do with JT being on the remix of the Super Freaky Girl song, which is by Nicki Minaj. Just in case you don't know, Cardi B and Nicki Minaj do not get along, they do not like each other. And it seems like within the female rap genre, people have to pick sides, which is mad weird. JT rocks with Nicki Minaj, Cardi B has done a song with the City Girls, but that was when JT was in prison, and Young Miami is on record saying that the City Girls supports Cardi because Cardi supports the City Girls. Take a listen.
There was a time where JT was arguing with Cardi and they was going back and forth, going back and forth, going back and forth. And you woke up and said, I was asleep. After you just woke up, there were no more following tweets. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people feel like you should have jumped in and defended JT, that being your City Girl group member, that being your homegirl, like, and you was on mute. Mm-hmm. So elaborate.
Let me tell you something, Santana. And you might, I'm never on mute. Ain't no don't gonna mute me. You gonna have to put me down and I'm still gonna pop my Mm-hmm. I never not came to JT defense, ever. You know what I'm saying? But it was just like, I was asleep. I literally was sleeping when I woke up. I'm seeing all these tweets, and when I caught up on it, I'm like, they arguing about Super Freaky Girl remix. I got left off of Bad Emoji. The queen they called me. And I ain't know nothing about the remix. The song was never mentioned to me. Mm-hmm. I was never called for the song. Yeah. So when that situation came on Twitter and they was arguing about the song, it's like, why insert myself? You know what I'm saying? Like that situation had absolutely nothing to do with me. I got left off of Bad Emoji.
So to be honest, I feel like Young Miami was absolutely right to not say anything. It had nothing to do with her. It's important to note, Young Miami has said that she supports Cardi B, and we've seen proof of that. So for her to insert herself in a beef where she does support Cardi B from a business sense and maybe even a personal sense, and she's never had no issues with Nicki Minaj, why insert herself? I feel like this one was just fanfare. The fans were not going to be pleased, and the fans and the fandoms and the stands are the reason why female rap is so hard to give unbiased opinions. You make one positive comment about somebody, now they think you're against their arch nemesis, when in reality, you're just stating your opinion. I had people in my comment section telling me that I'm an undercover barb because I give Nicki Minaj her credit, and I say that I grew up on her and I feel like she's the best to do it in my generation, and I will stand on that. But I still like Lotto. I even give Cardi her credit when it's due. I even like Megan Thee Stallion, and these are people who have problems with Nicki Minaj. So I don't feel like the smart thing would have been for her to get in there and double dutch with Cardi B. Like, no, let JT go back and forth. She's a grown woman and can handle her own battle. And to be honest, it was never that deep. Moving on, Saucy Santana asked Caresha if she's still dating Puff Daddy, and she said she is not.
Are you still dating Puff Daddy?
I'm not. I said I was gonna tell my truth.
I think that it really, really, really hurt me because I just feel like, you know, Puff was a really, really good person to me. I feel like he came and he helped me and, you know, he elevated me. He saw a lot of things in me. And I feel like that's like one of his specialties. Like he know how to like find people and, you know, identify their talent. And he was able to see more than music in me. And I felt like he brought out another side of me. Like he brought out like my gentle side. Like, you know, my woman side. Like it was like a lot of things that I didn't see in me that he brought out of me. You know, like, baby girl, you more than music. You an icon. You a Mogul. That's what people don't understand about like me and Puff relationship. They was just like, you was so loud and you made him a part of your brand and you just thought that you had something and it wasn't that, because I think the same thing with him. Like he didn't expect to fall in love with me because we did end up falling in love with each other.
And you can tell there's like a jump cut in the editing here, and she does look visibly upset. She says that she's very hurt, and she basically says, although he helped her realize a lot of things about herself outside of just music, she can't get caught up in everything that he has going on. And the one thing that I want to say is that I find it interesting that there's certain things that won't make a woman leave, but then there's certain things that kind of forces a woman to leave. Had this all not come to the public, she would still be there. Like, let's be real. But at the same time, he had a baby on her. He was clearly dealing with other women. He's not the nicest person. He's violent. He's vindictive. He's a manipulator. And he has allegations of dealing with children. There's information about how he literally used a firearm to attack somebody in the face. I'm trying to keep this as PG as possible. And that has been out there for years. He has had decades of bad behavior, and that didn't steer her away. That didn't make her say, okay, let me just use this individual as a business partner and keep it strictly business and not personal. But what actually made her pull away was the constant allegations and the lawsuits that kept coming even after the first one. Because again, like I said, even after a lot of the lawsuits, she was still there. There was a picture of her hugged up on him. I think she was in a robe. So she was still there until she couldn't be there anymore. And I don't believe that it was because of Caresha that she walked away. I don't feel like it was just her free will. I feel like he probably told her, look, it's just way too hot right now. It's too much going on. I have a lot to deal with. I don't think this is ever going to return back to how it was. It's in your best interest to walk away from me, and I'm going to walk away from you. Because let's not forget, Caresha's also caught up in at least one of the lawsuits. There's allegations of her having her cousin perform sexual acts on somebody unwillingly, and there's allegations of her trafficking drugs. So I feel as though they had a mutual separation, but I feel like it was more initiated by Diddy, and the fact that she can't ethically still be with him after all of that, because her career would literally be in the toilet. Like right now, I think she can kind of redeem herself in a way, especially because she is a likable person. She made a huge mistake, and she's never gonna be what she was before, but people are gonna give her some grace as time goes on, just because I think that's how people are. If she can get herself out of the legal aspect, I think she can move on with her life. And she's still very young. Diddy is in his 50s. She just turned 30. She has a long life to live to redeem herself and clean up her image and let this be in the past. So moving on into another clip, Young Miami talks about how she's been investing a lot into herself, paying for her own studio time, wanting to release music, but I guess her label is telling her that she can't because they don't see the growth in her as an artist. They also feel like her fans have grown up, which I'm doing a live reaction. Like as I'm taking notes and writing this script, I'm watching it. And it's interesting because I mentioned that earlier, but it is the truth though.
I got an empire to build.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna invest every dollar, every penny that I got into myself. So I do pay for my own studio, and I'm not able to release music right now. It's because it's like when I try to turn my music in, it's just like we don't see no growth in your music, or you know, you're not elevating, and you know, like the fans that y'all had 6 years ago, they grown now. When it comes to, I feel like Young Miami as an artist, that's the music I made. Yeah. I made fun music.
And that's one of the downsides of being signed to a label, that they definitely have a lot of control on what you release and when you release it. She makes fun music, like she said, but her fans have kind of matured from that. And because she technically is a one-trick pony, it would probably be a loss on her label to spend all that money with promotion, music videos, wardrobe, hair, styling, extras, graphics, interviews, everything it takes to promote a project, just for it to not catch on and not sell because her fan base has moved on. And I don't think it's everybody, but I do think a huge chunk of people just really don't care for her that much anymore. And that was kind of with and without the Diddy stuff. I knew eventually this fun girl era was going to end, because as much as life can be fun and we want to enjoy the fun, life is also serious, and she doesn't have range. I listened to JT's new album, and I will have a review. I want to do JT, Ice Spice, Megan, and Lotto all in one video, so I had to wait for all of them to drop, and they had just been dropping out the blue, so I was like, okay, let me hold on. Okay, I'm gonna do it, but let's wait. But I like that JT JT had some range, because we know that JT has a story where she went to prison. She's been vulnerable about some of the things that she's dealt with. And not to say that Young Miami hasn't, but I feel like she has lost her personality, which she did say.
You know what it is, Santana? I feel like I lost my personality. The reason why I lost my personality is because everything is so literally now. Like,
Yes.
we can't just be at the pool just talking something, and the next day you wake up and it's a headline and it just goes so deep. And that's something that it's just like, I feel like I lost myself.
She has led with, life is great, I'm rich, we turn up, we do men how we want, we get a bag. That is her brand connotation. Though I'm sure there's more layers to her, but she's unable to show that. And this whole entire situation has kind of permanently overshadowed all of that. She probably does have a lot to her deep down inside, but because the allegations are so bad, it's impossible to look into that. Now, moving on to the last clip, she talks about how a lot of the internet comments have definitely taken a toll on her. And I'm gonna be real, I definitely appreciated this because I like when a public figure can be human and can say, I have emotions, things hurt, words hurt, I'm not always tough, because it's very true.
Really, like when you asked me earlier, like, how was my mental, I just really hate that I lost my personality. And that's on me telling you, like, Santana, I don't want to dance no more, and dancing make me happy. I'm like, I don't want to go to the club, I don't want to dance no more. It's just, reading comments, and it really take away from, like, you get in your head. Like, you start overthinking everything. You could have a hit, but it's like, I'm overthinking it. I'm feeling like, me popping up my phone no more. That's just me being me. I'm thinking too deep into it because the internet is just this whole new world of like everything you do is wrong.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, there are sometimes comments that are made about me on my channel, and it has caused me to lose a little bit of my personality. That is something I struggle with outside of being a YouTuber. I get very anxious, I second guess, I can be very stiff at times because I don't know who's watching me from anywhere. I don't know if somebody's really trying to be my friend for the right reasons or if somebody's just trying to get over on me. And the comments can do that. Now, I'm gonna be real, I am the media. I do make my opinions. I have critiqued Young Miami. I critique a lot of people. And so I can be honest and say that I'm probably a part of the reason why she may feel that way. I'm not sure if she's ever watched any of my videos, but I have basically regurgitated a lot of the same thoughts and feelings that other people have. The only justification I can give to it is that nobody is above critique and nobody is above opinions because nobody is perfect. We may say who is somebody to judge, but we all judge, including her. She made comments about other people, other rappers, other entertainers, even other regular people, and people have done the same thing back to her. But I will acknowledge that it has to be tougher when you're in the spotlight and there's hundreds of thousands of people saying things about you that make you second guess yourself. So I did like that honesty because I do think it's true. I will say that a lot of what she's getting now is a response to a lot of her ignorance and her lack of care for what exactly is right. People can create their own idea of what is right, but as the human race, we know that abuse, violence, ignorance, materialism, illegal activity, we classify that as wrong. It was like all of the 7 deadly sins. And that's what she kind of participated in, or at least was privy to, and she didn't make the right decisions for herself as well as her career. So there is a little bit more to the interview, but I feel like I got the gist of everything and made my comments on everything. So my second and final thought is my closing thoughts and opinions. I think the lesson to be learned here is that you don't gamble your livelihood on anybody. I feel like Caresha can say that Diddy did all of these great things for her, he was a great person to her, and that she's hurt, and she's free to feel that way because it may be true. But the silver lining is he was never a good person. And I think she thought that she was above the rules and that she was the exception. And when it blew up in her face, now we're getting these delusional statements or her tiptoeing around the truth of what it really was because it hurts to accept the truth. And that's what it is. It hurts to accept the fact that she fell in love with somebody that she shouldn't have fallen in love with. It hurts to accept the fact that she used her greed and her materialism and her money hungriness to accept something that she shouldn't. It hurts to accept the fact that as much as she may have been getting up or using him, he was using her even more. I've seen people say that he's an energy vampire, and I agree, but he was also a youth vampire. They were doing this whole thing for the past like 2 or 3 years, and those are years that she'll never get back that were very crucial to her youth and her growth. On top of that, he's a career vampire. Her career is in shambles now because of her association to somebody who has a history of not respecting people's careers, not respecting his artists, not paying his artists, doing dirty business, stealing royalties, just not being ethical at all. And I feel like the red flags were there from the beginning, or at least became pretty red somewhere throughout the whole entire thing, and she didn't want to step away because she fell in love with the wrong person. So all of the ladies watching, whether you're in middle school, high school, 20s, 30s, 40s, hell, even older, all of the women watching, you just have to be cautious cautious about the person that you are not only going into business with, but blurring those lines and having pleasure with. I think Caresha was blinded by the idea, the look, the money, and also the benefits. Because she can say that Diddy helped her out with what she was doing outside of music, but she could have done all of that by herself. She could have started her own podcast on a different platform. She could have made her card game through whatever business she wanted to do it with, but she didn't have it together. So somebody came in and saw her weaknesses and saw a hole, saw her potential, and utilized it for his own gain while technically throwing her scraps and then leaving her to fend for herself. I feel like right now she's just fending for herself, and it's really sad because the city girls were more relevant and more popular than he was. And of course, he's a huge billionaire mogul, but his name and his proximity to the younger generation was not bigger than what the city girls were at their highest. Of course, we did know Diddy, but even me, I didn't know a lot of stuff that he was doing until like the last few years. I'm in Gen Z, so I did grow up seeing Diddy, but not as much as somebody older than me. I didn't really know all the things behind the scenes until recently. And I feel like for Caresha, it's kind of the same. She talked about how people around her try to tell her stuff, but she was in denial about their warnings and their cautions, when in reality, they were trying to tell you don't get too deep into the situation because his track record isn't the best. And I feel like what happened was she latched onto Diddy at the worst possible time, and then when everything came crashing down, she just so happened to be there. I think the interview was really good though. I think the questions were great. I like the emotion, I like the transparency, but I still feel like she painted Diddy to not be that bad of a person, and that was pissing me off. It still seems like if everything would have not happened the way it did, she would still be attached to his name and his brand. And that's why I feel like people were giving her backlash for this interview, because it comes off like you ignored all of the red flags for your personal gain, and you're only mad because you got caught. You're only upset because it affected your livelihood. You're only emotional because yes, you fell in love, but the person you fell in love with had so much negativity tied to his name that it's finally affecting you, and there's really little to nothing that you can do to get out of it. Her name will forever be tied to Diddy. She was loud about it. She overexerted energy into this man, and she didn't even get that in return, and I think she's just very hurt. It's hard to accept the truth, but the truth is Diddy was the downfall of Young Miami, and it'll be interesting to see if she can pick herself back up, move on, and let this just be in the past. So that is it for this video. I hope you all enjoyed. Please let me know your commentary on my commentary down below. What do you think? What do you know? Let me know. If you haven't already, go stream all of my music. It's all on all streaming platforms, and we have some AfroBeats and Mampiano that I'll be previewing, so make sure you guys stay till the end. Also, if you want a little bit more of me, go check out my vlog channel. My vlog link is pinned down below in the comment section, so go check that out and make sure you subscribe. I'm really looking forward to my upcoming vlogs because I have some things planned, so make sure you guys are tuning in with me. And lastly, as always, don't forget to follow me on all of my social media networks, and I will see y'all in my next video. Bye, y'all.
One time for the African girls, and you know we get it